Hey yo guys, I'm back here to give you my Ultimate Fight Night 16 Fight for the Troops predictions. The Ultimate Fight Night 16 Fight for the Troops is tonight live on Spike from Fayetteville, North Carolina. Gotta say, I mean, even though the card maybe isn't the best thing on the world, I mean, it's got some interesting fights. Like you got your main event with Koscheck and Yoshida. You got Jim Miller making, his TV debut for the UFC. You got Mike Swick fighting on this, and I mean, this card isn't really about the fights itself, which is what basically every UFC fight card has been about. This one's about for the troops and to raise for the injured soldiers who have been fighting with the U.S. military and been over in Iraq and Afghanistan. And to me, you know what? I mean, yeah, they kind of stole the idea from the WWE with the tribute to the troops, but at least they're trying to actually raise money instead of just going there and I mean, not knocking WWE, but they're trying to raise money to build some rehab facilities for people who have some brain injuries or anything of that nature, which I think is good. And I mean, around this time of year, as it's the holidays, I mean, we get to be with our families, but most of these troops don't, as they're fighting for freedom, and that's the most important thing. So if you'd like to make a donation, I'll put the link up in the description. I know it's a tough economic time, but I mean, these troops would need the money more than maybe some of us. So anyways, let's get to the predictions here. Like I said, it's a pretty big card here. Go from bottom to top as we normally do. Anyways, first fight's a middleweight bout between Tim Credeur and Nate Loughran. Both these guys are good ground fighters. They're excellent on the ground, but they've really fought no one as of note. That they've been able. They've fought people like shouldn't say that. Nate Loughran has been, or sorry, it was Credeur who's fought, people like Joey Villasenor and Chael Sonnen, but really, he hasn't been able to beat them, and nor has Loughran here. They've been able to fight, people who they name tough competitors, really. That's how basically you can just say this one. As I said, they were tough on the ground, which I think will kind of play into this, as they won't want to take each other to the ground because they know they're both good, and whoever maybe takes one to the ground, well, they're going to get probably caught in submission. So this leaves it open to something that I like. When you have two people who are great on the ground, you're going to see some bombs throw, and they're going to let it hang and bang. To me, this is going to be a good fight. I think, to me, I got to make a surprise prediction here, as I'm going to go with Nate Loughran to get a upset victory. And to actually just correct myself here, actually it was Tim Credeur who's fought the Joey Villasenors and Chael Sonnen. So I'm going to go with the Loughran. I just don't know why. I mean, I feel they're both, great on the ground and stuff, but I just see maybe an upset here. As a lot of people are picking other upsets in this one. Well, to me, this is the only upset that seems feasible. Then we go to the next fight, which is a light heavyweight bout between Steve Cantwell and Razak Al-Hussein. Let the WEC invasion begin, as Steve Cantwell makes his first fight with the UFC after pretty decent career in the UFC, as now the lightweights and middleweights have been folded in, and as mentioned many times. Steve Cantwell, a guy who was the last WEC lightweight champion, as he was able to defeat Brian Stawn, who actually was supposed to be the opponent here, but Brian Stawn, he got an injury, and thus we got Razak Al-Hussein. To me, Cantwell is a good fighter. He's not the greatest on the ground, but he's improving. He wants to keep this one standing, as that's where he's going to feel more comfortable. Whereas Razak Al-Hussein, who was supposed to make his UFC debut over this past summer, but he had an injury, so he fills in here for Brian Stawn. Hussein is a good fighter on the ground. I mean, that's where he's going to feel more comfortable, as opposed to Cantwell. But to me, I just have to go with Steve Cantwell, as on Brian Stawn at WEC 35 when he was able to win the light heavyweight championship back and erase the only loss he well, get revenge on the only loss he had in his career. He was able to use Muay Thai to his advantage, you know, put him in the clinch and do some Muay Thai knees. That's what he was able to do, and that's what I see him doing here. So the Muay Thai is really improving. I think, you know, he'll like to keep it standing, but, you know, throw some good punches. But to me, I think he'll put it, you know, get clinch going and just deliver some knees and just wear down Hussein and get a second round TKO. That's how I see this one going. Then we move over to the next fight, which is, if I can get it here, Jim Miller versus Matt Wyman. To me, this fight is a really interesting fight. It has potential to be fight of the night. We're fighting in the lightweight division, so normally we'll get something exciting here. Here is replacing Frankie Edgar, who, you know, had a injury. He had to pull out. Jim Miller comes in basically on a week's notice to take this fight, which always got to give the guy props. Really, Miller as a lightweight is someone who gets not much respect. I mean, he's a veteran of, you know, the IFL. Before that folded, and he really wasn't able to get that much TV exposure. I mean, you know, when you're fighting net, it's not that many homes available, and, you know, only a certain few people, and mainly the hardcores, are going to know who you are. To me, Jim Miller is a guy who can be a top 10 contender in the lightweight division. No joke. I mean, he's been, you know, UFC ready for about a year, and I think he gets to show that tonight when he takes on Matt Wyman. But you see, he made his UFC debut, did Miller, back at UFC 89 when he took on David Baron. And, you know, he was able to get a submission of the night in the third round, and, I mean, he's just scary good on the ground. That's how I see this one going here. Wyman, he's been a fighter who's been on a roll as of late. I mean, I believe he's been going, what, 4-0 in his last couple fights with the UFC, in his last fights with the UFC. But to me, I think, you know, Wyman's going to want to keep this fight standing, because he doesn't want to go to the ground with Miller. But to me also, I mean, Miller isn't that standing with him, so I think, you know, it's in a way a lose-lose situation. But then again, you can't go against Wyman, as, you know, the hot streak in the UFC has been going good. But to me, a lot of people are going to just pick Wyman to get over Miller here. But to me, I have to go with Jim Miller, as I think he's been UFC ready for a very long time, scary good on the ground, and I think, you know, if a knockout has to happen, he can pull one out. So to me, that's where I go. Jim Miller, unanimous decision. Then we move over to the next fight, which is Mike Swick versus Jonathan Goulet. Mike Swick, you know, when he made his debut in the UFC right after his time on Ultimate Fighter Season 1, he was able to, you know, be incredible and look like he was going to probably be a contender for the Middleweight Championship. I mean, he was, what, 5-0. He defeated the likes of David the Crow Loazo and Joe Diesel Riggs. I mean, some pretty tough competition there, and then all of a sudden, you know, he had that disappointing performance at UFC 69 to Yushin Okami. He decided to drop down to welterweight, and, you know, he's got some big victories there, like the likes of Marcus Davis and Josh Berkman, but still, to me, he hasn't been the same. He hasn't had that fire he had when he made his debut at middleweight, but to me, I think that's mainly because of injuries. Swick's been hurt pretty bad over the last year or so, and that's why, you know, we haven't had, you know, the Mike Swick of old. But Mike Swick says he's, you know, at the best he's been, the healthiest he's been in a very long time, and to me, I believe him. I mean, he just came off of elbow surgery. He should be good. He should be really set to go, and, you know, hopefully we see the Mike Swick of old here tonight. But he's taking on Jonathan Goulet, a veteran of mixed martial arts. But when he's been in there, he's up against the top tier opponents like a Mike Swick. He hasn't been doing that well. Goulet was a guy who fought on UFC Ultimate Fight Night 3 when he took on Dwayne Bang Ludwig, and he lost in 11 seconds via TKO, as he felt the bang of Mr. Ludwig. To me, I still feel that, you know, he's not ready to take on these top tier opponents yet. Like, I mean, he's already faced the likes of Josh Koscheck, Dustin and Jason Doomsday, and hasn't been able to get a victory here, while you're in there with another tough opponent as Mike Swick. Gotta go Mike Swick, second round TKO. If anything, I just think Mike Swick now re-energizes himself and gets a victory here. And we see the Mike Swick of old, and Goulet, I don't know what we need to do. I mean, Goulet's probably going to still be, you know, Goulet is a veteran of the game, but he doesn't have enough it takes to, you know, defeat a Mike Swick. So that's why I'm going to go with Mike Swick. And then we go to the main event, which is Josh Koscheck versus Yoshiyuki Yoshida. To me, this fight is interesting, as we have, you know, Koscheck fighting on a couple weeks' notice, basically. I mean, after he saved UFC 90 from being abysmal. Well, not abysmal, I shouldn't say that, but from, lacking that key secondary fight, which this card did need. But still, let's go with this. I mean, Koscheck in that last fight against Alves, he was in there with a different animal than he's in there with Yoshida, because Yoshida is, a fighter who, when he made his debut in UFC 80, at UFC 84, when he defeated the War Machine John Kompenhaver, he was TKO'd in 56 seconds. People are like, well, he's going to be a contender in the welterweight division. Well, let's not get carried away. He's in here with Josh Koscheck, a guy who, as he took on Thiago Alves, he was in there with like a machine, a guy who could be a middleweight. And I mean, Koscheck wasn't able to pick him up and take him down because he's just too big. I mean, Koscheck was able to fare his own standing with him, throwing the punches, but didn't last that long. But still, he was able to carry his hold for a while. Yoshida is going to mainly look for some judo skills, some judo tosses, etc. His judo is going to be good, but I don't think he's going to have enough to take down Josh Koscheck. I mean, Koscheck will probably, block his judo attempts and then, throw some quick leg kicks. I mean, he can throw some good punches as his stand-up is really improving, but he also likes to throw kicks to the inside and the outside of the legs. Plus, when he's ready, he's just going to take you down, and that's basically how I see this one going. As I feel Yoshida is, very easy for Koscheck to take this one, to take him down and, deliver some ground and pound. He probably throw a submission in there. To me, that's how I see this one going. Koscheck submission at the third round. I mean, Yoshida's a good fighter, but I don't think he's ready for a Josh Koscheck. Koscheck, I think, I mean, after he was actually kind of able to hold his own up against in my opinion, the #1 contender for the welterweight championship in Thiago Alves, I think he goes out here and, makes an example out of Yoshida. So those are my predictions. Hopefully you guys tune in and watch it on Spike tonight. Anyways, I just want to get to some news items here. One of the year, which should be the oh my god moment of the year, is the fact that JoeyStyles basically TKO'd JBL. Yes, that's right. For those of you who haven't heard of the story, former ECW announcer and now the guy who basically runs WWE.com, when they he went to go with the WWE on the Tribute to the Troops in Iraq, as this was his first going, JBL decided, because JBL's bully of the bunch, to kind of harass and make his life a living hell by verbal abuse and even some physical stuff, like for example purposely spilling a drink on him. Well, that didn't fly that well with Joey, as he finally couldn't take it and punched JBL square in the face, so much to the point that he knocked him down, gave him a little cut under his eye and a little black eye as well. Really pretty amazing, as JBL's a big dude and Joey's a little man, and that's just pretty incredible. It's kind of like the old UFC when there were no weight classes, and he just takes him down. That's pretty impressive, gotta say that. I mean, anyways, JBL kind of got his revenge back on someone else, mainly Lillian Garcia, by pouring a bucket of ice water on her, whatever, and at Raw in Philly, dinking around in his BlackBerry. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. Maybe that's why they brought JoeyStyles out. Granted, I don't think that's the main reason. I mean, as they were in Philly and the history of ECW there, so that's what I think happened there. And finally, congratulations to Lennox Lewis to being inducted into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. I mean, a guy who couldn't, a guy who absolutely deserves to go in there. I mean, hell, multiple time heavyweight champion, and he won a gold medal in the '92 Barcelona Games for Canada. Big props to Lewis. I mean, tough fighter, knew what he was doing every time. I mean, he unfortunately, he was a star in boxing when boxing started its decline. I mean, that fight with Tyson was supposed to be the biggest thing for him, but I mean, he was up in there against way past his prime Tyson. Absolutely obliterated him. He got that big name on his trophy case, but still, I mean, it wasn't the same Tyson of old. Hell, not even a Tyson from, even '96 or of that nature. So, anyways, just wanted to give my congratulations there. Questions, keep sending them. I've got some good stuff. Let's try and, keep it away from what match do you want to see and stuff like that, or whoever. Let's just, let's ask some questions. Let's also keep it away from stuff I'm trying to predict as I will make a prediction of that nature. But yeah, that's basically about it. Let's try and keep some questions, maybe on some insider stuff that you don't know, or, you know, stuff from the past. Just stuff maybe you want to know about any sport, you know, MMA, boxing, or, you know, pro wrestling, whatever. Just put it there. Anyways, that's it for me. I'm out. Peace.